Society of Hope. If this is your first time, welcome. And those that are returning, thank you so much. Today, you are going to experience a woman who is courageous with a K share her motivational, encouraging story with you. Now, if you would like to know more information about Wrinkles Society of Hope, go to wrinklesocietyofhope.org. And don't forget, hit subscribe and share our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button so you can hear about the new stories that come every week. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to hear from you all soon. I am back. I'm super excited. I know this month I've been replaying some of our amazing women that have spoken about sickle cell last year. However, I have a new fresh face here today, and I am super excited. I met her 2 years ago, I think. Yeah, briefly met, but her husband works with my fiance, and I am super excited. I've heard great, amazing things about this woman, and I'm so happy to bring her to the Wrinkles table today. So I'm asking her to introduce herself to Wrinkles today.
Hello, greetings to all of our listening audience. My name is Lakisa Muhammad. I am a wife, I am a mom, and I serve the community as a midwife.
Amazing, amazing. And yes, and as you see, fresh, beautiful face. fresh face.
You are too kind. You are
no
too
wrinkles.
Kind.
I see no wrinkles, mommy's wrinkles, but if you have any hidden somewhere, or if you would get a physical wrinkle, how do you think that would affect you? How do you think you would handle that?
You know, Summer, age for me has been a difficult thing to reckon with. I can remember when I turned 30, I was in bed all day. I was like kind of depressed a little bit, like, oh my God, because I can remember as a teenager, thinking about, you know, when you turn 30, like this is going to be this and this is going to be that. And it feels so far away.
Yeah.
And when the realization came that, okay, I'm 30, it was like, oh, wait a minute. So, you know, my husband and I have this ongoing joke about being carded for certain things in the grocery store and all of that. And then when you get to the point where they don't ask for your ID anymore, you're like a little bit offended. Like, wait a minute. I am over 40, but do I look it? Like, I don't. So, you know, I don't know how I'm going to feel when I get my first wrinkle. I think, you know, ironically, as I get older, like the idea of age and all of that is starting to change. I'm starting to embrace it. I'm starting to like step into my auntie mode a little bit, you know, even with my midwifery clients. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have an auntie moment and just tell y'all.
Yeah.
Because many of them are much younger than me now. You know, they're in their early 20s and they do look at me in that way. But I've started to embrace it because, you know, the auntie is a staple of our community. People trust their aunties. They love their aunties. So I've decided I'm embracing the idea of, you know, Auntie Quiche.
Auntie Quiche. I love it. And that's the thing too. Yeah. When we start transitioning, it's like, wait, what? I'm still feeling young. Just yesterday, I was in high school, even though it was 20 years ago.
Right. In my mind.
I just graduated. Most definitely. Now in life, I know we've been through transitions in life and we have wrinkles in life, but I know your family have the wrinkle for a while of having to deal with sickle cell. Can you give us how was that road and how is that road going for you?
Wow, it's been one, just in reflecting upon what we've been through. I'm saying it's the path of obedience. The path of obedience, following a divinely guided path in many ways. And just to catch the audience up, our youngest daughter, Hassana, was diagnosed with sickle cell disease based on the newborn screening. So the heel prick test, some people call it, which I'm familiar with as a midwife. But one of the things that they check the baby's blood for is sickle cell trait and sickle cell disease. So Hassana was born and diagnosed with sickle cell disease. And right away we begin to get services, and we heard at that time so many horror stories of painful crisis, and she'll probably have to have her spleen taken out and all of these things that we could expect. Mm-hmm. And the God saw so fit that she didn't experience any of those things right away. We were taking her in to get all of the required testing, and she was doing really, really good. Until the age of 4, where I would say definitely was our biggest wrinkle in this process. And that's the time that she had a stroke. So my little baby, my little 4-year-old, had a whole neurological event while she was on a plane with my husband flying back from our home state of South Carolina. So they're in flight, and he describes her as just acting really strange, not talking, like gesturing at things and not being able to just express herself. They ended up landing, and as soon as I saw her, I knew there was something wrong. Yeah. Like I knew that there was something's not right. Like we couldn't say what it was at that time, but something's not right. Mm-hmm. So we went to the hospital where we had been receiving care for her. And that was even more difficult because they didn't recognize the signs of a stroke like we did. Like who would think that of a 4-year-old, even with sickle cell disease? Like for nobody, that would be the first thought. So they wanted to do, all of these tests, including like spinal tap and all of these things that they wanted to do. And I said, hold on, wait a minute. Yeah. And that's another thing that I'm going to talk about, just advocacy for your child. Like, why are we playing the guessing game with all of this? We're going to go to a higher level of care. I want you to call her personal doctor, get him on the line, and let's really figure out what's happening. So we ended up moving from the smaller hospital that we were at to PCH, Phoenix Children's Hospital, where we were in the care of specialists. And they almost immediately said, we think that she's had a stroke. And it was just the scariest moment of my life. Wow. Like just, you talk about heart dropping, just, I almost felt in those moments, it was like an out of body experience. Like I could see myself going through the motions of asking the questions, looking at my child and thinking, is she going to be all right? And there's where, faith just really had to step in. Like our immediate family just immediately started praying. We just started calling and saying, this is what's going on. We need you to pray right now. Yeah. And they ended up doing the testing and finding out that she indeed had a stroke. But when I tell you, by the grace of God, and only by the grace of God, you look at her now, you would not know it. Yeah. 10 years later, you would not know it. But the funny thing is, even weeks later, you didn't know it. There was her healing from all of that was just so swift and so graceful and just so, even the doctors were like, what did y'all do? Like, how is this possible? Yeah. And only by the grace of God. Only by the grace of God. So in that, I say it's ironic because we went from having seemingly a perfectly healthy child, like she was doing amazing, to a full-on stroke. And then after that, the care that followed has been a long 10-year journey of being obedient, I would say. Yeah. Because after that point, we have been at PCH receiving care for her monthly for the last 10 years. So at least 2 visits every month for the last 10 years. So it started out as just blood transfusions, where they would give her more healthy red blood cells. And for the audience, that there may be people that don't know exactly how sickle cell works. So to back up a little bit, sickle cell disease affects the person's red blood cells. So instead of them being nice and oblong and being able to flow throughout the body the way that they normally should, they form a crescent or a sickle shape. And then they can get clogged in the joints, and it affects the iron levels of the blood and just the overall health. And it for most people living with sickle cell disease, it's a painful, horrible experience. Like it's really, really hard. Especially for children, because I feel like they don't understand, like they can't wrap their head fully around what's going on with them. And that was the case with Hassana oftentimes. So yeah.
Wow. That had to be a hard journey for your 4-year-old, you know.
Oh yeah. Because she doesn't know what's going on and what's happening, and even trying to explain to her, I think the folks at PCH did the best they could, because they see it every day. Well, not every day, but they see it often. They're working with children who are dealing with this and families who are dealing with this on a daily basis. So they definitely were able to help provide resources to help her understand. But there was also the hard days of trying to get IVs going. And unfortunately, she inherited my veins. And they ain't good. So that has been, an ongoing struggle, and trying to help her understand, why are people poking me, and why is this happening? And why do I have to do this?
Yeah.
That has been, a rough part of the journey for sure.
What advice would you tell other mothers that are, new mommies that have their little babies and children, from ages 0 on up, that they're dealing with this? What would you tell them right now to muster through some of the things that some of them might have to go through?
Yeah, I would say being active as well as being an advocate for your child. So I would say it's not enough just to go to the appointments and just listen and just ask a couple of questions. Like at PCH, I really think they know me when I hit the door, because the onslaught of questions is going to come, but I'm digging in. I need to fully understand what it is that's going on and what you're offering me. And one of the tools that I think is important is writing things down. Like from the beginning, I always had a notepad with me, and every appointment I would go and I would take notes, and then I would be able to look back and say, okay, well, on this date, we said dot, dot, dot. Has that gotten better? Do we need to readdress that? And I think when, and the staff at PCH overall has been wonderful. They've been great to us, good to us over the years. But I think it makes a difference in your care when they see that you are actively involved in your child's health care, when you're taking notes, when you're asking questions, when you're saying, okay, what does this number mean? Like you say her hemoglobin S is supposed to be, okay, well, what's the threshold? What's it supposed to be under? Well, what was it on this appointment? What is it today? When you start asking those questions, I truly believe, Summer, you get treated a little bit differently. Yeah. Like they see that you're just not a passive, person in all of this, that you are taking an active role in your child's healthcare. And then the information starts to flow a little bit. And then the opportunities start to flow a little bit. Because we did blood transfusions for Hassana, I believe it was for about 6 years. And that involves hooking up an IV every time we go in. And I mentioned the veins ain't good, and you're poking her and she doesn't like it. And then she's got to sit with this thing in her arm. We did that for about 5 or 6 years until there was a pilot program, I'll call it, for red blood cell exchange. So it was a way of giving her healthy red blood cells without all of the extra iron and all of the extra stuff that comes along with just giving the person more blood. And folks with sickle cell disease, or their children have it, they may know iron levels and chelation and getting rid of all of the extra iron, how if you're on transfusions for a while, then that becomes an issue. So because we were always the squeaky wheel and always saying, okay, well, what else can we do? Or what else can you offer? Hassana was one of the youngest, I think the youngest patient to participate in the red blood cell exchange, where instead of doing the IVs, we actually had a port, which we resisted a little bit in the beginning because we didn't understand it, but it actually turned out to be so much better for her because we didn't have to do the IVs every time. And she didn't get all of the extra iron. And I think those treatments are what has really helped to sustain her health and allow her to be, an active young lady, and be able to do the things that she wants to do. So
I agree that advocating and being so involved in the treatment plan team, being a
yes.
part of the team well, I worked at Phoenix Children's Hospital. I was a social worker there for a while. I've been a social worker 20 years in and out, especially in hospitals. I did majority of my career in hospital. And when you see a family members come in and say, okay, flipping through a notebook or flipping through, some people actually pull out medical records and like, this happened this day and this happened this day. This is the same symptoms. Is it this again? It makes you stand up as a healthcare worker and say, okay, let me dig a little deeper.
Right.
It's just a human reaction to doing what you're doing, because other people that's coming in and they're not saying anything. You kind of just give them what you have, because you don't have all the history right in front of you. You don't have time. Right. I'm just saying, as a healthcare worker, I'm just being perfectly honest. Sometimes you don't have time to dig all the way back and really do research, because of course, healthcare is time, healthcare is money. You're kind of going in, you're treating what happened at that moment. And unless somebody comes in and say, wait a minute, there's some history here, let's look at this, let's look at that. So I definitely love that advice of writing things down, staying on top of it, because I think people get angry at doctors and angry at healthcare providers, and they're like, you should know this. Well, yeah, but also they have 1,000 and something patients they see all the time.
Exactly.
And even if they know you by name, and although they might understand and seen you over and over again, you sometimes have to remind them, hey, remember this happened? I do that for myself sometimes. You have to do it for yourself.
I think across the board, like that is the thing.
Yeah. That's
even for our children, but also for ourselves. So if it's a medical notebook for them, keep one for yourself. If you have ongoing health issues, especially for chronic conditions, just like you said, over time, we can't expect our doctors to remember everything. Like, they should be on top of the big things, but if they're not, we hold a responsibility as well for ourselves and especially for our children, I believe, to make sure that they are well advocated for and that you're an active part of the care team, as you said.
That is true. How did you and your husband press through this?
Again, faith, lots and lots of faith, but also good communication. Like, even to this day, because she has to go in at least twice a month. Coordinating all of that. I'm a busy midwife in community. He works, so it's like, okay, who's going to do what? Who's going to fulfill what role? And we have a debrief after every appointment. Usually one of us, whoever's not there, will check in and say, okay, how did it go? And then, well, they came in and said such and such and so and so. So that's recorded in the medical notebook as well. Like, we're, keeping up with what's going on. Or if it's, and usually when my husband goes, if he don't remember quite what they said, I'll call and say, okay, Dewayne said such and such, but what was the actual staying on top of it, I think, is important, and communicating between each other. And when you have a child who has, complicated medical history or special needs or any of that, also making sure that you're taking care of yourself. Self-care is such a buzzword these days, and, just imparting that it's not always the bubble baths and facials and all of that stuff. Sometimes it's time alone. Like, if you have a child who is in the hospital a lot, who needs, a lot of extra care, you want to be bedside all the time, taking that moment to step away, taking that moment to just go eat lunch by yourself, or to go take a walk, or to do something where you can clear your head and come back a little bit stronger and ready to deal with what's in front of you. And I think for husband and wife in a marriage, like, teamwork and being able to coordinate and work together so that nobody gets burnt out, so that nobody feels like they're carrying all of the burden. And I think for mothers especially, that's the case, because that's our baby. Like, and even sometimes dealing with the hospital, they're like, okay, mom, you sign here, you do that. And it's like, okay, well, yes, I'm here, but she also has a daddy. Like, he's going to be here too. So it's the two of us that you will see. It's the two of us that will have questions and will be active, in her care as well. So I think all of that is important. So communicating with one another, and making sure you're staying strong in that, but also nurturing and developing yourself and your relationship too.
That's awesome. That is so true. And the 10 years have passed since that incident, that huge wrinkle happened. If you look back at that, what advice would you give yourself at that time?
I think the same thing I'm saying right now.
Yeah.
I take my own medicine, Summer.
Yeah.
So really making sure I communicate what my needs are, because I was that mom that wanted to be there every single second and, you know, not leaving, and just fear of missing something being said or something being done. I think when you have trust in your care team and the doctors and the nurses, that helps you to know that I can go downstairs and eat lunch and she's going to be okay. Yeah. You know, I can go walk around Target and smell candles and, you know, just take a break from it all.
That is
so come back. You know,
I mean, I love that, walking around Target and smell candles, because I've seen parents sit there right there, you know, and I'm like, I know that you're scared, but I need you to take care of yourself. That was always my thing. You know, my big thing as a social worker, I tell people all the time, my dad gave me these big, broad man shoulders. I tell people that I got these high back from my dad. I was like, but I really feel like I have it because I was meant to be a social worker. So, you know, allow some of your team to take some of that and put that on their shoulders for a temporary, so you can go smell the candles or go eat some fried chicken or whatever's going to make you feel better.
Whatever that thing that brings you joy in that moment, go do it. Like, everything is going to be okay. Like, you'll come back. If something does go wrong, they'll call you.
They will.
That's another thing too. They'll let you know. Like, you're not going to miss it. But taking that little bit of time for yourself, I think, is important. And, you know, if you have a partner in this that you're working with, lean on that person. You two lean on each other and help each other through it. I think that would have helped me greatly during the time that Hassana had the stroke, you know, versus being there 24/7 and just being selfless in that, and thinking that that was a good thing. And it's not always, I mean, we see it in caregivers all the time, where the caregiver gets burnt out. Now who's there?
Who's there?
To fill that role?
Who's there? It's the airplane mode. I fly a lot. I know you fly a lot. And I tell people all the time, what's the flight attendant say? You know, you have to put the mask on yourself first before you can help those around you. So you have to do that in life in general, mothers especially. I think we have that issue. I know I've had that issue for years, and, you know, I have to learn and say that to myself a lot. Like, hey, I'm not taking care of myself. Like, what are you doing? You know, we have to remind ourselves to do that all the time. So I'm glad of that advice. That's really good advice.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the strong, amazing woman that you are today, and you got a t-shirt made. What would that t-shirt say?
Oh, such a good question. Such a good question, because I make t-shirts now. That's been a pandemic thing. My mom actually taught me into getting a Cricut vinyl cutting machine and a heat press and all of that. So yes. So my shirt would say, the good life is the one you have. Oh, the good life is the one you have. And I think it just speaks to having an attitude of gratitude and being thankful for what you have been blessed with, and recognizing that always wanting more, and this, I'm speaking to myself again, taking my own medicine, that attitude of always wanting more and always, well, this is good, but if I had ... or if I were ... you know, that can steal joy from us. Like, it robs us of the joy that relishing in and taking advantage of what we currently have, if we're always looking for more or looking for something else. So the good life is the one you have.
The good life is the one you have. Love it. Yeah. I definitely, now I got to talk to you about t-shirts. But anyway. We digress. Everybody picked up something in the pandemic. Listen.
House plants and t-shirt making. That's been my thing. So.
Oh, I tried the green thumb and I killed every plant I tried. I was like, okay.
Maybe not this one.
Maybe not. Yeah, didn't do that. So I know that you are working in our community, providing a great service. And I definitely want you to share what that is, and how people can use your services as well.
Absolutely. I am a certified professional midwife, and I'm licensed here in the state of Arizona, and I provide home birth services. So most folks may not know or may question whether home birth is safe, but it absolutely is for what we call low risk moms. So those moms that are healthy, you know, home birth is a viable option for them. So I provide comprehensive care. So that is, and right now I have moms that call me, I say pea stick in hand, just found out they were pregnant, newly, like 4 weeks. And I'm like, how'd you even know? Like, what made you take a test? But from that point all the way through your postpartum care, I can take care of you. And most all of my visits take place at home. You have your baby at home, your postpartum care, you know, happens at home as well. Mm-hmm. I've been getting lots more calls and lots more interest, especially what's going on in our world right now in the state of hospital care, and lots of families, particularly Black families, are looking into home birth, which I think is amazing because it speaks to our tradition. That's the way that we did it since we have been brought here to this country. We have taken care of ourselves, and we've done it at home with the help of trusted midwives and healers within our community. So I'm so excited to see more Black families getting back to our tradition of home birth and breastfeeding and all of those things.
And do you help with the breastfeeding too? Or?
I do. I have knowledge and skill that I've acquired over the years. Before becoming a midwife, I was a doula for many, many years. And the difference between the two, a doula is a support person. So they are there to help you physically, emotionally, informationally. Informationally, is that a word? But I might have made that up. But
understood though, understood.
Right. We see each other. We got it. So a doula is not a medically trained person, but they're there to help in all of the other areas. And I like to say that they're like your biggest cheerleader. Like they're there to cheer you on, like you got it. All right, come on, let's get up, let's go. You can do this. And they also have a wealth of information too to help you with decision making, which I think is essential for those birthing in the hospital. Knowing that those things are going to come where you're offered things and you're like, well, what is this? Should I do it? Should I not do it? So part of the doula's role is to help you prenatally, but also at the bedside as baby is coming, to make those big decisions. So a midwife, for those women that are low risk and healthy, you can say they take the place of an OB. Okay. Like we're kind of conditioned to think that we need to call the doctor's office as soon as we get pregnant. Well, a midwife can do all of the things that the doctor would do for a healthy person throughout pregnancy. So they take care of the medical side of things. So all of the lab work and ultrasounds and vitals and listening to baby and seeing what position baby may be in, up to the actual labor and delivery and giving birth to the baby and making sure that everything is normal there, that mom and baby are okay after the birth. And then also throughout the woman's postpartum care, making sure that she is, doing good in the 4th trimester, as we call it, and adapting to motherhood. And that's with breastfeeding, that's with postpartum mood disorders, that's with managing the household. So doing some postpartum planning and making sure that you can actually rest. My clients will tell you that's something that I harp on. Get in that bed. Like, what? Why are we doing all these things? Because it's that therapeutic rest after you have a baby is so important. And it's heartbreaking sometimes talking to my experienced moms who had a baby and were right back up on their feet, or even had to go back to work right away, or had to go back to school right away. Your body needs that rest after baby has come. So I stress that a lot.
I think that's so important because I know that's why I experienced postpartum depression after my first child, because I was a new mommy. I was a single mommy. And, at that point I was just, of course I have my family, but I didn't have somebody professionally to support me or educate me or be there to say, let's come up with a plan that's better for your mental health and your physical health.
Right.
you know. And I was a high risk pregnancy on top of that. So, you
So
know,
it was
I
even
just
more important.
more
Yeah.
important. And,
Yeah.
you know, emergency C-section, all that kind of stuff happened. And I went right back to work, you know, right back to, you know, I'm like single mom, worried about money, worried, you know,
Got bills to pay.
and
Yeah.
postpartum depression hit hard, but I didn't even recognize it, you know. And when I went to my doctor, I think the biggest thing is that I was just, you know, your doctor, you're in and out, you know. So I was just like, I'm fine, I'm good.
And then did you even trust them enough to open up and share and to say, this is what's going on with me? Oftentimes that's the problem too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so often I had babies in the hospital, you know, both of my pregnancies I delivered in the hospital. And I can remember being discharged after a day or so, and I didn't see anybody for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So who would you have called? Who would you have
I was deep in
told
my
or
depression
shared
by
that
then.
with?
Yeah. Deep in my depression. So I love that you get to build that relationship with them throughout, and that one-on-one touch. I'm pretty sure it feels different than having just a doctor visit on a hard table, you know, lay down, let me check you. Okay, you good? All right, you this and all right, this and that, you know.
No, a totally different world, a totally different world. So doing it in your home, you know, providing care in the home, I think is important because it helps solidify that this is where everything is going to happen. And it's also where you feel most comfortable. And I know for myself and for most people that I talk to, when you go into a clinical office, it's almost like it strips a little bit of your power away, you know, and this speaks to, you know, having sickle cell disease or children with sickle cell disease too. It's something that happens to us when we're sitting in that chair inside of that office where we just feel small, you know, we just feel a little bit not as strong or as powerful as we may in our life, you know, because these are the professionals and they're coming to tell us XYZ. So I think our little notebook may also be a shield, like we got pen, a sword. So like, okay.
All right, I'm ready. I'm about to battle you.
right. Or just even up the playing field a little bit. You know, yes, you have professional knowledge and clinical knowledge that I don't have, but this is my child. Like, and I know her and I know what I see on a day-to-day basis. So it level things out so much because it should be cooperative care. It should be shared decision-making where we're working together for the best outcome in all of this.
That's true. So where can these moms, or these women that just got a positive stick, where can they locate you to get more education and services?
You can call me with your pea stick in hand or email me. My website is amothersworthbirthservices.com. You can also find me on Instagram. My business page is at A Mother's Worth. And then also my personal page is at Lakisa Creates, Lakisa Creates. And that's where I share about mommyhood and marriage and a little bit of midwifery, but also some gardening and crafting and travel as well when I'm able to get that in too. So
love to get that in. We love to.
Right. Got to. That's self-care for me.
That's self-care. Well, all the links will be provided. And then also you can go to wrinklesocietyofhope.org, where there will be a link directly to her website and you can find her there. So thank you so much for coming to share today.
Thank you. I have thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. You're such a wonderful interviewer. So easy to just share with. So I appreciate you so much and offering this opportunity. There needs to be so much more around sickle cell awareness.
I agree.
And I just thank you for your devotion to the cause and helping us amplify our voices and bring this to light. I appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you too. And if you have more questions about sickle cell or you want to reach out, just let us know and I'll make sure that I connect you. So thank you so much. Bye, Wrinkles.